Hello and welcome to this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network, and it is May, and we decided to do a fun show today. Not that we don't do fun shows, but we wanted to talk about Mother's Day, celebrate mothers as we get into May, and so we brought the First Lady of the city in. She's the victim for Mother's Day. Dr. Ann Partridge, thank you for coming in, and your schedule is busy, and Jessica deserves big props for making this show happen.
I'll have to make her watch this.
Exactly.
She'll like it and get full credit because she does help me organize well.
So thank you. I mean, this is a great treat to see you in here. You are so busy. For those that don't know, an internationally renowned oncologist, you treat patients, you're in research, and you're a mom. So it's running the gamut like a lot of other women. You're a working mother, so it's busy.
Yeah.
Mother's Day, it's coming up for you. You love that day, huh? Big day for you guys in the house?
Yeah, we
breakfast
try.
in bed?
Never. I'm not a big fan of breakfast in bed, but I think we do take it seriously. I'm fortunate and have 3 mothers, which we can talk about, and we take it seriously in that I think we commemorate kind of, celebrating that aspect of at least my life and the other mothers in the world of myself, my husband, and my kids.
I'm curious because, I've known you a long time. And as I think now, you've got 2 daughters in college, 1 in high school. When I first met you, obviously they were munchkins, really.
Right.
How is being a mother in 2023 different from other stages? Obviously, it's always evolving.
Yeah, well, I obviously only know it from what I've been through, and many people have different experiences. I have 3 girls, which is I think different than raising boys too, and we just only made girl babies. But I think today the challenges are that you're competing for attention not just with their friends and with the boys or girls these days they might be interested in, but you're also competing for the attention of the thing in their pocket and the screens in a very different way. And so trying to kind of keep your kids level-headed, getting their schoolwork done, learning how to socialize kind of appropriately, and at the same time not fall behind because you don't let them have their phones or their screens is, I think, a real challenge, at least in the modern era. We had a hard time pre-pandemic because we'd tell the kids you had to put your phone away by a certain period of time and you couldn't leave it in your room at night. And then the pandemic hit and they were doing their schoolwork on all their screens. And so they would do their schoolwork late and you couldn't say you can't have it in your room because then they were working on it. And so it left us a little bit it was the Wild West for a little while. And now we've tried to, fortunately they're getting old enough where they themselves will limit their screen time because they know they need to focus and get their work done. But I do empathize with people now, both during and post-pandemic, where their kids are young enough that they're not doing it themselves yet. It's really challenging.
And the hard thing too is, especially with kids your age now, is I want to say they're young adults. They're adults in some ways.
Technically, 2 of them are
technically adults, but you know what I'm saying.
18.
So they're kind of off on their own, doing their thing, and you've got to balance, I think, the letting them do their thing and still, I don't want to say reining them in, but being a parent, really.
Sure, and this is the challenge of parenthood probably over, eons. My parents, when we were growing up, had a sign in our kitchen that said, "Hire a teenager while they still know everything."
Yeah.
And then I didn't think it was that funny, and I didn't get it. And now I'm like, oh. And so we're living that dream with our kids right now. They know a lot. They're very good kids, and they're very smart kids relatively, and they know everything. And I come in and sometimes know a little bit. And I've noticed that, at least for the older one, I'm knowing a little bit more. I've gotten smarter as the time's gone on for her. The other 2, I still have to prove myself.
Where do you stand right now in that whole thing? Yeah. You talk to, obviously, so many women in your job every day. And are you hearing the same thing from just women and mothers in general about, as you said, social media is a huge issue, and, health is an issue? It seems like, I don't want to say, things are tougher, but it just seems there's so many, kind of like you were saying, competing forces for mothers and kids right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my work, taking care of women with breast cancer, and men sometimes, but mostly women, and particularly younger women who are often in the kind of throes of motherhood, the nitty-gritty, little kids or trying
Right.
to get pregnant. We don't in that world compete so much or have to manage so much of the day-to-day worries about whether your kids have too much screen time or not. Of course, all modern mothers are dealing with that age kids. I think what's kind of, for lack of a better word, very grounding and very reassuring when I take care of my patients is that kids, no matter what age, and families pretty much step up for their moms when their moms are going through something like a breast cancer, or they're, and so and it's something that it's really more about how can we all take care of that mom. If she's a mom, or can they take care of each other? Can they take care of their kids and still be the mom they want to be and get the best treatment?
Because you're seeing moms in their toughest times.
Yeah. And it's amazing how much, kids will rally for their moms. Of course, partners and moms rally for their daughters, and daughters for their moms. And I actually have a number of kind of mother-daughter patient pairs. Yeah. Because they, if I saw the daughter, then the mother wants to see me. If I saw the mother, then the daughter, hopefully I took good care of her and they still want to see me. But there's a lot of that, and things, of course, breast cancer can run in families too, so that's part of the reason why. But I think people really, in a positive way, you never want someone to go through a breast cancer, but that's when those bonds really come through, right? The love and the appreciation, and the fear also, and the I wish I could be the person in their place. You see that from a mother to a child,
right?
Most importantly. I mean, you can see it from dads to children too, and vice versa. But it's and siblings to each other. But really, with a mom to a child, that's you see a lot of kind of good, beautiful love come through in my clinic, and a lot of it's going from mom to daughter and daughter to mom, and vice versa.
From your standpoint, what are you looking at? What's the most rewarding part of being a mom?
So I really just have a lot of joy watching my kids. John and I sit back, a lot of them are, and when they were babies, we would just swoon at them in the cribs. And now we just really enjoy watching them grow, laughing with them, watching them turn into the young women that they're turning into. That I think is the most fun. I personally have a lot of FOMO, so I want to be part of all the things they're doing. Now I get the hand a lot, particularly from my teenager. The other two are bringing me in a little bit more as they get older. So I do enjoy being with them and doing things with them when I'm allowed to. When they were younger, I got to do a lot for them. Now I'm on a need to know and kind of an invitation only, but that's okay.
I was going to say, do you find that, and you kind of just touched upon it, because I know that with my oldest, I mean, now they ask for your opinions. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's 26, so she'll ask for your opinions. She's still going to do what she's going to do, but she'll say, what do you think?
Yep.
And she'll ask him that and ask me that, which is nice, because you're right, when they're teenagers, there's no, what do you think?
Yeah, I get a little bit of it. Sometimes they want to listen to what I think. Sometimes I'm not solicited and I just offer it. Increasingly, Grace, my oldest, is asking John things because she's interested in the political world. The other two, I'm the doctor, so I kind of give them health advice sometimes, but fortunately they're healthy, so they haven't had to ask for too much. But as a rule, it's a little more push than pull with regard to, what do you think? Mm-hmm. I'm usually telling them what I think without being asked, for better or worse.
Yeah, exactly. What's the toughest part? Is that kind of what you're saying, to be in but not to be in right now?
I think it's partially. I think the toughest part for most parents is letting go. I heard a really great quote about this that I try and live by, and it's adolescence is not about letting go, it's about holding on for a bumpy ride.
Yeah.
An adolescence defined as 14-ish to 25 or so. So it's a long period of time where, what do you do when you hold on for a bumpy ride? You don't hold on tight. You have to kind of let go and kind of be flexible, like you're skiing a little bit or holding on to something, and allow your body to not absorb all of the, slings and arrows. So that's a little bit what's been, I think, the hardest along, is trying to know what to hold on to, what to let go, and then watch them grow.
Is there anything in particular that you do or love that you've always done with the girls that even as they get older, it's something that that you guys still always do?
So big things that we typically do, we do a lot of, when we celebrate holidays, we have some traditions where, for example, my middle daughter Natalie and I always make Christmas breakfast. And that's her thing. And she'll get up early and set her alarm. Now it's early as like 9 o'clock.
Which is nice. I got to say, which is nice on Christmas morning.
Well, I was going to say, it's earlier than all the other girls who want to sleep till noon still. But, we'll get up and do things like that. We do a lot of, my girls aren't that into shopping. You'd think like, that's what I did with my stepmother or my mom. But they're not that into that. It's kind of a little bit of a torture chamber for them to go shopping sometimes. They don't mind it, but they don't love it, which maybe is good for the pocketbook. But they like to thrift, but they don't want me there. But I think, sometimes we've gone shopping and enjoy it. We watch, they'll tell me what things we should watch, and we'll watch. We've looked through over the years, and especially during the pandemic, we would look at the top American Film Institute movies. Over the years, we made the girls watch Lawrence of Arabia one year.
You're just punishing them,
it's
aren't
amazing.
you?
It's an amazing movie. It's a long one, though.
It is a
it's
good
long
movie,
one.
yeah.
And so we'll do a lot of that, John and I and the girls, and that's fun. And we do a lot of hikes. So we'll probably do that on Mother's Day if the weather's decent enough. We like to go down to any place we can hike with the dog and just get outside and spend a couple hours walking around. And
so traditions,
hiking.
Those things are important because those are the things that the girls are going to remember years from now.
Yeah.
Traditions are really a big deal. You talked about your stepmom briefly in a second, but as I was thinking too, there's so many different, and I use the quote, mothers out there. And I think that's a great thing is that, moms come in different ways, I guess. And you were talking about you have role model mothers.
Well, I have my mother, my birth mother, who lives right here in New Bedford, and I see pretty frequently, and I love her and get to hang out with her regularly. She's right down there at Whalers Cove. It's been a great place for her. I have a stepmother who I lost last year. She died of dementia just last year, so that's been really hard. And all the holidays since April 19th, 2022 have been rough. So I would imagine this Mother's Day is going to be rough also, especially for I have 3 stepsisters and my sister, my brother, and I who really, and all the grandkids, and we all miss her a lot. And then I have a mother-in-law who's also right here in the greater New Bedford area, who's been fundamental in my ability to be a working mom, because she was a working mom and really helped to support John and I a fair bit, along with her husband Freddie, when the girls were young and he was running for mayor and I was traveling and stuff, and so the girls are very close with her. And so we've had a really good experience with her, so I get to celebrate her as well. And then I have a lot of friends that are moms too, and a little hidden secret is that women like to be together, they like to talk, and many of them mother each other. There's a whole lot of, they're either each other's therapists,
I was going to
or
say
they're
bond,
moms.
but okay.
We bond and we support each other and we process a lot together. And a lot of the stuff you want to run by someone, no offense to the husbands or partners, sometimes your girlfriend is giving you that, what do you think about this, that might be a better answer than you might get from some others in your life.
But too, like you're saying, you're I guess learning from all these different sources, if you will, and relationships that are obviously help you then as a mother.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, we're always looking to each other for advice. In fact, I walk or run with a group of women in the morning. We routinely are, what do I do about this? This one did this. How do I manage that? What's the right mother thing to do? And kind of talking about our experiences and trying to help us to, do the right thing by our kids. What do you limit? What do you let go on?
Talk about, as a working mom, and you are busy, and I know my wife is busy, I would assume that the biggest challenge is that one word, time. So I guess looking at your philosophy, or what you're most important to you when you're trying to figure that out.
That's a great question. I think everybody needs to figure out how to manage their time, whether they're working or not. You need to have something to do, right? To feel kind of whole in one's life. And many moms will choose to take the time when their kids, especially when they're young, to focus on taking care of the kids all day and all night. And that's a full-time job that's way underappreciated.
Right.
In fact, I had a patient once who looked at me and said, "You have little kids. How can you work?" And I looked at her and I said, "How can I not work?" I was like, "It's a hard job to be home with them." And I'm kind of joking, but you have to choose where you're going to be able to kind of give the most to the world. And of course, that both depends on, the opportunities and your responsibilities. And it also depends for many women on the finances and what makes sense. Some
Right.
people have to work. Some people don't have to work. For some people, it's sanity to work. For some people, they've been trained up in something. My feeling was I've trained up in something I've dedicated,
Right.
now a large part of my life to do, as long as I could make sure my kids were okay and I could spend, a lot of time and prioritize that time with them, but not, the full day. That was a good fit for me, but it's not the right thing for everybody.
Right. Do you find that when you're spending time with the girls, and I'm sure other parents are like that sometimes, you don't have to, quote, entertain. Sometimes it's just good to, and I use the expression, blob on the couch and just like you said, watch a movie. And that sometimes those things make more than going someplace or, going to an event or what have you.
Yeah, and that's, it's interesting. That's something I kind of learned by trial and error over from my early mothering. I used to schedule my girls with activities that was almost obsessive, silly. And what I realized is exactly what you just described. The kids, they didn't need all the scheduling. I needed the scheduling to feel like I was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And in the end, I really, a lot of the time that has been the best time with the girls is the blobbing, the chilling, the cooking something together, the crashing and watching something, the sitting down and playing cards. We play a lot of cards too, especially when we're on, we're not all home at the same time and we're all, Lauren's always doing work.
Everybody's,
We're all busy.
in your house, everybody's gone.
Yeah,
really. Everybody's
two of
on the
them are
go.
gone and Lauren's busy studying. And so, but when we're together, we do a lot of, as you said, blobbing and we play a lot of hearts. Ask the mayor about hearts someday. He's a little bit of a hustler there. And we have we have fun times together with board games and things like that, where you're just chilling. You're not scheduled.
Right.
You don't have to run anywhere. You're just being together. Sometimes you're fighting, because those can erupt, but it's still fun.
Well, girls, I mean, having two girls, I know is one thing. I can't imagine three girls and the conflict resolution that has to go on at times at the house. But sisters do that. I know. Yeah,
that's another one. That one I'm actually pretty proud of. So my overscheduling one, I would say to anybody paying attention or listening, don't overschedule your kids and don't feel like you have to have them doing something all the time. Again, the downtime's important. The being together and the learning to how to actually work it out. I had friends who would say, "Oh yeah, we don't put these two together because they always fight." And John and I were very much, yeah, they do, and they need to figure out how to fight civilly and sanely and get along, because they're going to be each other's hopefully best friends over time, right? That's kind of, when push comes to shove, when you look at people as they get older, who do they know? Friends, you want to invest in your friends, but really your family, your siblings, those are the people you know forever. Wherever people move, they're the people you connect with. And so John and I would routinely, we used to joke that we'd put the girls in the mosh pit and see what happened. But it wasn't, of course we'd separate them if they were really acting up. We're not crazy. But we would, we'd go on vacation and they had to figure out how to have fun together. And if they were fighting, there's no alternative. This is what you got.
Yeah.
And you can't go spend the rest of the day in your room. Get back out there. And they really have evolved into being pretty close, which is fun to watch.
And that's the thing too. It's like I look at Hannah and Abby and they text each other. Abby's 24, Hannah's 26, so they're best friends. They talk all the time.
Isn't that nice? And I told you I have FOMO. So I see the girls do that and I love it. And I'm like, oh, I want to be part of that. I got to just step back and let that happen.
And the boy is their brother. They're overly protective of him, but that's fine too. He deals with that. Do you worry about the time? Does it? My mother used to always say, "Am I spending enough time?" Do you worry about that?
So I was never one of those people who had the maternal guilt. I just didn't subscribe to that. I showed up for what I could.
Yeah.
I showed up for a lot, probably not as much as I would have liked to at times. And as long as the kids were cared for, and we always had somebody caring for them,
right.
Whether it was John, of course, in my world, John, did a lot of the kid care, a lot of it. He even though he's been busy too, their
Girl
whole
dad,
childhood.
yeah.
He's a very good daddy. Did a lot of the the back and forth to school, a lot of the homework stuff at night, a lot of the meals, and we had help also. But I think so. I haven't spent a lot of time feeling guilty about those things. There are times when I wish I were there for more things, and I had to learn really early on to schedule time in and to schedule, block my schedule for things that I might have liked to participate in from a work standpoint. So for example, I work in Boston. It's 60 miles to get there, and I don't have a private helicopter. And so the
60 miles plus hours wise.
Yeah, just 60 miles and how, it depends on the time you're going. And so I've had to kind of strategize about, when do I go up and when do I come home? And you can't just run home from school and drop a lunch off if somebody forgot something when you live 60 miles away. So that's taken a lot of work over the years to figure out. And at the same time, I missed a lot in Boston that I might have participated in had I not had a couple kids or hadn't, been as far away, that I was pretty okay with. I made my decisions, I make choices, everything comes with compromises,
Yeah.
and it was well worth it. So, if I get invited to a party in Boston on a Saturday, you better believe most of the time I'm not going, because I want to watch the girls playing a sport or doing what they're doing or just lying with them. I don't want to get back in the car and go to a work function, even though I love my colleagues at work and have very good friends there. If I can avoid it, I often do. So don't tell anybody if I'm supposed to be there. But something's got to give. And so I would prioritize there and not, prioritize the girls. And the other place, obviously, that if you ask John where I gave is my culinary skills are not something I've spent a whole lot of time developing. So, we try and eat well, but it's not always coming straight from scratch from the kitchen. There's a lot of workarounds.
You must have some amazing stories with women, mothers that you've dealt with over the years that just inspire you. And I would assume that, especially for young girls like your daughters and like my daughters, they look at their mothers as role models, really. How do they do it all? Because they want to do it all too. What do you pass on to them? I mean, obviously they're not mothers yet, but what do you pass on to them as a mother for their careers and for their future? Because now they're getting at that age, obviously, where they're talking about different things. They're not worried about Cinderella anymore.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, and I actually was talking to my friends about my walk-run group earlier this week. I think most of us, modern women, try and teach our daughters and our sons to do what you love and do what you can do as you move forward in your life, so you can be independent if you need to be. You want to be able to take care of yourself. And if that entails, that usually entails a job or a career. And if you happen to meet someone and fall in love, that's terrific. And of course you become kind of interdependent as part of a family, if you're lucky, and if you're going to have kids and stuff like that. But I feel strongly, if you're capable and able to be able to at least nurture something that's all your own, that you can share with others, but that, if push came to shove and you somehow found yourself alone, and we see this far too often in our society, you're not going to be, falling by the wayside, because you've been able to be secure and independent enough to take care of yourself and anybody else that's dependent on you. We try very hard to kind of inculcate that in our daughters, because that's the way I was brought up too. Just because we know that life doesn't always work out, and as you said, the fairy tale way you want it to be.
And motherhood has changed so much too, as you're kind of alluding. It's not the same as it was 50 years ago. I mean, there are so many women working and having the careers and obviously kids, and you're trying to balance everything, and as you said, just trying to make everything happen. And sometimes I look at Kim and it's like, sometimes she's just exhausted, and yet she doesn't complain, and the kids come first, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and sometimes though, there's two things this reminds me of. One is that adage, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can put it on others. And so yes, the kids come first, but if you're not grounded, then you're no good to your kids or the rest of your family. So people do need to take care of themselves. I tell my patients this all the time. and their loved ones. And mothers in particular need to take care of themselves so they can take care of all the people that they typically take care of in kind of a conventional family unit. That's number one. And then number two is, we're often the hardest on ourselves, mothers and fathers and, everybody. And so there was a book that was written probably about 15 years ago when I was in the throes. Lauren's 17, right? So she's my youngest. She was probably 2. And it was called Good Enough Mother. And just that title alone, good enough. You don't have to be perfect.
Right.
You just have to be good enough. And be careful about how you judge that good enough. And that's something that really helped me to kind of know that I didn't have to get straight A's in every single part of parenting and mothering. You had to be kind of good enough. In some parts you'd be better, and sometimes you were kind of mailing it in, but it wasn't your priority, and hopefully your kids will forgive you.
I love those commercials when you don't have to, when they're looking for parents to adopt kids, you don't have to be the perfect parent.
Yeah. Well, nobody is. Nobody is.
Right.
I mean, let's be clear. And, we go through life thinking we need to produce and be the best we can be. And of course you want to be the best you can be, but you can't be the best at everything. And so you do have to, just like with your time, you have to prioritize what's important to you as from a values standpoint when you bring up your kids.
Being present, really, that's really just being available or present to them is probably the most important thing too.
Yeah, and sometimes that's by Zoom when you travel a lot as a parent. I mean, I'm not joking.
Right.
There were times, my kids always knew, and my patients knew, that if I got a call from my kids in the middle of clinic, still, if a kid calls in the middle of my clinic, unless I'm literally having a life and death conversation, which unfortunately I do, I answer it. And I take care of a lot of moms, and if they're not, I look at them and say, I'm sorry, one of the reasons I'm allowed to work is so I can answer my kids. And I answer it. And usually it's, honey, I'm seeing a patient right now, and they want to know where the car key is or something, and I can answer it quick, or I say, I'll call you back. They get it. But that was, to me, it was kind of, I got to be there for them,
Right.
at least when they need me to some degree.
Right. Well, it's been a great half hour. It went by fast. I wish you a happy Mother's Day. I hope it's a great one for the family.
Thanks, and thanks to Kim too. I mean, happy Mother's Day to her.
Yes. We'll have everybody over. It'll be nice.
That's great.
I won't cook though. That's
Me neither.
That's going to do it for this edition of A Conversation with Jim Marshall of the Bedford Cable Network. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.